Hey, hey. Really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that BestBell, I'm the best tail. Into the next world. Guess I got next still. BestBell, I'm the best till. Into the next world. Guess I got next still. Hey, hey. Really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest.
Woo! We are ready for week number 8. That's right, everybody. It's Bradley Stalder here with the BestBell Fantasy Waiver Wire for week 8. Oh, we've got some great options for the waiver wire. It's been some wild times. Injuries continue to pile up. We're getting to our third, fourth string running backs that we're having to scoop up off the waivers and just spot start, right? But I'll tell you what, my Donta Foreman call was pretty good. I told y'all to be starting Donta Foreman over a lot of other players this past week. And what does he deliver? He delivers 3 touchdowns. And my reasoning was this. It was very simple reasoning. It's a classic old time. You don't overthink this. This is not galaxy braining. If we are not confident of Tyson Bagent, then we need to be more confident in the other pieces like Donta Foreman. I mean, yes, they're going to give him 25 plus carries. They're going to use him around the goal line. What goes up must come down. And if Tyson Bagent is down, not as good offensively, then what must go up is the running game and Donta Foreman. It made sense. It made sense. You needed to be starting Donta Foreman, and it worked out. There were other players that just did not hit very well. I get it. But some of the most accurate rankings come from this site, bestbellfantasy.com. Check out the weekly rankings. I haven't put up week 8 yet. Of course, those things come out, I don't know, Thursday, Friday. So check out, especially on Thursday, as we're setting those Thursday lineups. I'll usually have a Wednesday show to talk about the Thursday lineups. And then Thursday, I spend most of the time on Player Profiler and then go onward. So that's where you can find my programming this week. I'll be on Player Profiler on Thursday for the Thursday night tailgate and on Saturday night with Billy Muzio for the Dominator lineup lockdown 30-minute. Get your questions answered there. But BestBell Fantasy, this is where we're going to get a lot of waiver wire ads. So make sure you guys are popping into the comments. We're going to do our best. I'm going to give you some alternatives if, in fact, your waivers are pretty dry. We've got some chalk ads. We've also got a couple deep cuts. So we've got a lot in store for you. I've got 9 waiver ads for this week. Players to be targeting, and especially in your league. We're going to start, though, before we get into any of the waivers, with a couple of the comments that have been here on the YouTube channel already. Collier, regular, thanks for popping in. Asked, who do you rather have rest of season, A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown? And the answer is A.J. Brown for now. I mean, the additions of the other pieces of the lineup are just so much stronger than last year. Amon-Ra is playing very well. Let's not get anything wrong. But A.J. Brown is the alpha. He is a beast. He is the downfield threat. Amon-Ra is a PPR dink and dunk, but can get open in the middle of the field. Certainly used around the goal line. But A.J. Brown just is such a big play waiting to happen. And his target share has superseded Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, all of the others. We saw big play after big play against Miami last night. So A.J. Brown has to be the play moving forward, and especially if we're thinking about short term, Jalen Hurts is dealing with a knee. Do you think Jalen Hurts is going to be mobile? No, he's going to sit back in the pocket, let the plays develop, and that's where A.J. Brown can just win downfield. And you're probably thinking to yourself, but Bradley, isn't Devonta Smith due to get back? Isn't that what we were sold? Devonta Smith is going to be having an equal target share with A.J. Brown? No, I was saying that all offseason. The reason why Devonta Smith was able to match target for target A.J. Brown last season was during the stretch of Dallas Goedert being out. It just made sense. So we need to be confident in the talent of A.J. Brown over Devonta Smith. Look, we know Smith is going to have his occasional spike weeks. And we like those spike weeks in part of the Philadelphia offense. But the more consistent and highly elevated producer, the wide receiver one on the Philadelphia Eagles, is clearly A.J. Brown. And we want a good offense long-term, rest of season. A.J. Brown is the answer. All right, Go Jin says, up by 20, I need Ayuk to hold off Purdy and CMC. Yeah, I have Ayuk as, I believe I finished ranking as a top 6 wide receiver for this week. It's been a minute. It was yesterday, early afternoon when I submitted the rankings. I think he was wide receiver 6 for me. It's going to be kind of tough, but I believe in you. Jose says, we need tight end help. I've got a couple tight ends for you, Jose. So check out the episode here just a little bit. Okay. My season's pretty much over. The whole team is injured. I'm so sorry, E. Sometimes that happens. I mean, my number one FFPC team is probably not going to be number one anymore, given the IR stint for J.K. Dobbins, for Anthony Richardson, for Devon Achane. It's been bad, right? This has been pretty tough. And then I had Derrick Henry on bye this past week. Christian Watson now dealing with another injury. It's been tough for me to maintain that number one spot in the Throws versus Joe's FFPC tournament, but we're going to do our best. Is Sky Moore droppable? The answer is yes. Sky Moore is droppable. He's not commanding the targets. It's clear he's not being the mega producer that we had hoped he would take the next level, the next step. He's unfortunately probably a second round bust if you can't make it happen in the Patrick Mahomes offense. I mean, Rashee Rice, year one, is clearly the wide receiver one on this team, ahead of any of the other players. And Rice is not on the waiver wire anymore because he was picked up. You should have picked him up. So there you go. Sky Moore's been droppable since week one. Yes, Collier, I agree with you. Josh Jacobs, are we done with him? Who can we realistically trade for? Should I play Chuba over him? Rough time at running back. You're going to start Josh Jacobs over Chuba Hubbard if Miles Sanders is active and healthy. If Sanders is healthy, he's probably going to get the majority of the work. I don't believe that the Panthers are going to move away from Miles Sanders quite yet. The argument is that Chuba Hubbard only stepped in as a handcuff, and he played better for sure than Miles Sanders, but he stepped in as the handcuff. So I'm not convinced that the Panthers are going to do the rational thing and just hand the reins over to Chuba Hubbard. Maybe I'm wrong, but these are things I'm not usually wrong on. Okay. It would take a lot more time, I think, for the Panthers to move away from Miles Sanders. They're not going to do it at this point in the year, especially given that Sanders was just hurt and now they're coming out of the bye. Could it happen? Sure, but it's not a bet that I'm willing to make. Down 4 against Hawkinson. Do I start CMC? Yes, you start CMC. Monty and Debo pretty much took away the season. Yikes. Well, let's get your seasons back on track with your first waiver wire must pick up target. That's Darrell Henderson, right, guys? I mean, we need to be picking up Darrell Henderson. 2.39 yards after contact per attempt, fine. But what was clear is that he operated as the number one back, 18 carries in this game. So I know it was 18 for 61, only 3.4 yards per attempt, but he did have a target, 2 targets and a reception, 20 opportunities in the first game off the street for Darrell Henderson. Henderson knows this offense, and he got the touchdown, 13.6 fantasy points. You're not angry about that. He's got the opportunity, and the Rams are a good enough offense for him to be low-end running back too until Kyren Williams comes back off of IR. So must pick up, 15.5% rostered. Some of y'all were picking up Royce Freeman. Some of y'all were picking up Zach Evans. Some of y'all were picking up Myles Gaskin. I get it. We just didn't know who the Rams back was going to be. Now we know. Now we know, and that's where you put your chips in bid on Darrell Henderson. I mean, you're gonna need some running back to help, and he fits that mold. And we've seen production in this offense before. We've seen RB1 weeks, we've seen RB2 weeks. So there's no reason for Sean McVay to move away from Darrell Henderson. That's why you need to be putting chips in. He's a running back too until Kyron Williams gets back with goal line opportunity. So pick up Darrell Henderson. Obviously, Royce Freeman, Myles Gaskin didn't even play in this game. Zach Evans wasn't a factor. We need to be picking up Darrell Henderson. And I was telling y'all to pretty much avoid this situation until we got more clarity. And we got clarity. Is Darrell Henderson. I was not confident in Royce Freeman, not confident in Zach Evans, and that was clear. So I told y'all to avoid until we got word after I said avoid those running backs that Darrell Henderson was going to be the guy. So it makes sense that it all fits together. Like it fits together like a glove. It just makes sense that we should have avoided the Rams until we got clarity, and Darrell Henderson is the guy. So now we know. And maybe you took a shot on Henderson, but maybe you wasted fab on Myles Gaskin, right? And there was a 25% chance, all things being equal, that one of those four backs was going to hit. And as we got more information on Saturday night that it was going to be Henderson and Freeman, I mean, the move was to pick up Henderson then, but maybe your league mates did not. Henderson is a volume-based running back too moving forward. So that's until Kyron Williams gets back. I'm assuming that Kyron Williams is going to be the running back you want once he returns from IR. Next, we're going to talk about Josh Downs. Josh Downs has been the guy, and I had been touting Josh Downs since he was drafted. Even before he was drafted, I was drafting him 100% of the time in the FFPC streets because I thought that this was a back end of the first round, mid-pack second round wide receiver talent at UNC in college. Like, this was a player early declare. He was 21 years old when he was drafted. And at UNC, his PFF receiving grade was an 86.1 at North Carolina. That's really good. Okay. He's 83 for 929 and 11 touchdowns. This was his third year at North Carolina. He broke out during his age 19 season. So we wanted Josh Downs. He was drafted in the third round. I felt that he fell a little bit because of his size. He's 5'9", 171, played a lot in the slot. But now Josh Downs has hit, and it's clear that even without Anthony Richardson at the helm, Gardner Minshew is able to involve Josh Downs pretty significantly. I put him on last week's waiver wire, and somehow he torched the Cleveland Browns secondary, one of the best defenses in general in the NFL. Josh Downs was able to make it happen. An 82.7 PFF receiving grade last week yesterday against the Browns. 5 for 125. He had the big touchdown. He had, only played 28 pass snaps, ran 25 routes, 89%, and that's fine. That's fine. He's playing almost every. He's the wide receiver 2 on this team behind Michael Pittman. It's what I've been saying for weeks. And at 44 targets over 7 games, averaging over 6 targets per game, he's had 6, 8, and 6 targets. And he's been a player that I've been pounding the table for over the last couple weeks, since even before the draft. And so for him to be hitting now, it's great. When you get into those shootouts, the Colts are getting into shootouts. We want Josh Downs, 4.48 speed. As I said, third round pick. Sure, his speed score wasn't very good, but it's because of his size, 5'9", 171. His BMI is not great. But looking at Josh Downs, 34th, wide receiver 34 in fantasy points per game so far, 12.2. I mean, he's a rookie playing 7 games, and he's a wide receiver 3. Josh Downs is a wide receiver 3 with mid-pack wide receiver 2 upside moving forward. That's how we should treat him. He is now an established piece of this Indianapolis Colts offense. And with Jonathan Taylor now ramping up, we saw Jonathan Taylor elevate his game. As Jonathan Taylor elevates, this is an example where Rising tide lifts all boats. Like Jonathan Taylor being more involved in this offense is going to continue to help. Zach Moss played very well. Jonathan Taylor playing very well. Pittman is playing extremely well. And so Josh Downs, as all of those pieces are working together with Gardner Minshew, you're going to see more goal line opportunities. You're going to see sustained drives. And Josh Downs is a part of this offense that we want to be targeting. 23rd among receivers in yards after the catch, 22nd in receiving yards, 21st in receptions. Yes, not great in the yards per route run, but he also plays a lot out of the slot, not a high average depth of target. So a player that if you need PPR help he reminds me a lot of Golden Tate. Okay, plays a lot out of the slot, close to the line of scrimmage. Occasionally will have the big play when there's busted coverages or he makes a move, makes guys miss. He is a talented wide receiver. I'm surprised he fell to the third round in this year's draft. So I want to make sure that y'all are all getting in on Josh Downs. He is available in about 65% of your leagues. All right, we're going to do one more, and then we're going to move on to some questions and see the comments section. Tazi Spears. Yes, he's coming out of the bye. Some people had to drop Tazi Spears because of the bye. He is a must pick up now. The Titans have already traded their all-pro safety Byard. That happened today to the Philadelphia Eagles. It would not surprise me in the least if Derrick Henry is on the trade block here in the next 10 days and Henry making a move to somewhere else, automatically catapulting Tazi Spears into what can be a top 12 role in the NFL. He's got talent. He's got the metrics. Tazi Spears, holy guacamole, this guy was dynamic. 19th among all running backs in a part-time role, 19th among running backs in receptions, 22nd in receiving yards, 21st in route runs, 19th in route participation. Tazi Spears, 10th in true yards per carry, 5th in yards per touch, 2nd in juke rate, 3rd in breakaway run rate, 20th in a part-time role in breakaway runs. His yards created per touch is 10th among all running backs, and he plays against the 12th highest stacked front carry rate in the NFL. Doesn't matter if teams are playing the run. The Titans know that they're playing the run, and they still hand the rock off to Tazi Spears. He gets breakaway runs, and he has a high juke rate, high yards per touch. This is a player that can certainly hit the top 12 pretty regularly if he's given that full workload of opportunity. So Tazi Spears, an absolute must pick up. There is no reason he is not 100% rostered. Every single league needs to have Tazi Spears off of waivers. This is one of your last chances to get him. So pick him up. Tazi Spears is the guy. Yes, he is the must target. Get him on your team. Okay. A PPR trade, Josh Jacobs for Eckler or Bijan. If you can get Eckler or Bijan Robinson for Josh Jacobs, you smash that. Easy. Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson, rest of the way. Shout out to you, Isaac Diaz from YouTube. Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson the rest of the way. You know, I know people are hesitant to be betting on Devontae Adams, but I think Adams over Garrett Wilson the rest of the way is the play. I think Adams is going to get more healthy. I mean, we saw Adams get hyper targeted at the beginning of last week's game. It was Brian Hoyer. We expect Jimmy Garoppolo to be back this coming week, where he's going to hyper target Devontae Adams again. Garrett Wilson, on the other hand, the Jets are run focused. Breece Hall is coming into his own. The defense is very strong. Yes, they've had a couple weaker games due to the concussions suffered by their secondary. Doesn't matter. The Jets are going to win not in shootouts, but because of their run game and their defense. And Devontae Adams, the The Raiders are not going to win because of their defense. The Raiders are going to win by getting the ball to both Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. So those are the two players, and of course Michael Mayer as well. But those are the two players that this offense is going to run through. I understand Garrett Wilson also is the wide receiver 1 on the New York Jets, but give me Adams rest of season, given the upside of the Raiders and the shootout potential that their games can get into. Props to you, Bradley, for the best fantasy channel. Thank you, Ivy Catholic. You're very kind. If you like the content and you're just watching for the first time, make sure you guys are smashing that subscribe button. We just crossed that 1,700 sub threshold just recently this past week. So shout out to y'all for making this a great community. Shout out to you, Ivy Catholic. Is Justin Fields droppable? No, you hold on to Justin Fields. I mean, there probably aren't scenarios where you're dropping Justin Fields. No, I would not do it. Mark jumps in. I'm thin at running back. Mostert, Jaleel McLaughlin, Tyler Algier, Tank Bigsby. Drop one for DeMercado. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, James Conner will be back in a couple weeks. Mostert will be just fine. He had a down game. Jaleel McLaughlin will continue to split with Javonte Williams. Tyler Algier. I mean, we'll see what happens with Bijan. He was dealing with some headaches, supposedly, and wasn't feeling well. Not on the injury report. The NFL is investigating that situation. So Tyler Algier is a must handcuff. Same thing with Tank Bigsby. DeMercado, not necessarily a must add handcuff with those other running backs in tow. You're probably going to be just fine starting Mostert and then one of those other three moving forward. Yeah, because I would not want Algier or Bigsby on the waivers. I'd rather have someone else dealing with the start sit question of DeMercado. All right, let's keep her rolling. Jose, you asked for help in the tight end position. I'm going to give you two of them. The first is Dalton Kincaid. Very obviously, Dalton Kincaid is the tight end you need to be picking up. Dawson Knox is going to be out for some time with a wrist injury that's going to require surgery. So Dalton Kincaid, a player that played a not a season high in pass snaps, but 33 is the second most of the season. He did have a season high 8 targets, season high 8 receptions, 75 receiving yards, no touchdown, but also a season high PFF receiving grade. Dalton Kincaid, remember, the first round pick of the Buffalo Bills. This is the player that you want to be picking up. 8 for 75 on increased goal line, increased usage. This is the exact type of tight end that can step in, be a mid-pack tight end 1 until Dawson Knox is back. Dalton Kincaid, increased involvement, yards per route run this past week, 2.59, highest of any of his games so far this year. So yes, we want to be picking up Dalton Kincaid. He's available in about 63% of your leagues, and he is a must pick up if you are desperate at tight end. Like Jose, you mentioned Tyler Higbee, but if you're dabbling in the Michael Mayers, like Dalton Kincaid is a must add over Michael Mayer right now, given the shift at Buffalo. Like we saw Buffalo have, Dawson Knox out, and so Dalton Kincaid step in and produce 8 for 75. We know Gabe Davis is completely hit or miss. So Dalton Kincaid is a tight end option. We've seen tight ends explode in the Buffalo offense. Quentin Morris, even just had a touchdown a little over a week ago. So yeah, we want Dalton Kincaid. You need to be picking up. He is a must target for you. And it shouldn't surprise you if Dalton Kincaid starts getting tight end 1 weeks over the next few weeks as Dawson Knox is out. So Dalton Kincaid must roster. Now here's another one. I've been pounding the table for Taysom Hill for weeks now. Taysom Hill is a tight end that you need to be targeting. You need to be adding him. Why? Because Juwan Johnson is still dealing with that calf injury. The offense is working for the Saints through Taysom Hill, through Chris Olave, through Michael Thomas. In fact, Taysom Hill, I said that he ran or played 39 pass snaps last week. That was his highest since 2021. Taysom Hill played 44 pass snaps last week. Set a season high with 50 receiving yards. He had 4 receptions on 5 targets, and he had the goal line rushing touchdown. He was involved in the rushing game in addition to the passing game. This is exactly what we wanted from Taysom Hill, and we drafted him as a spike week tight end. We wanted these types of games, but we thought maybe they would come from the quarterback spot. Maybe they would come from the goal line. And we did get a rushing touchdown, but what we didn't anticipate was that Taysom Hill would be also used in the receiving game as a tight end. And as long as Juwan Johnson is out, and Foster Moreau had an egregious drop at the end of the game, an egregious touchdown drop, Taysom Hill is going to be the massive play for us as long as Juwan Johnson is out. He's playing the snaps. He is getting the goal line work. I mean, he had 12.5 yards per reception in this game, right? Yes, this was good. And he will continue to do those types of things as long as Juwan Johnson is out. So pick up Taysom Hill. He's probably still available because people are like, I don't know what I'm going to get from Taysom Hill. I don't know. I'm so afraid. Every tight end is gross. You know what's not gross? Taysom Hill getting you fantasy points. That's what's not gross. You know what is in his range of outcomes? 20 fantasy points. You know what's not in Michael Mayer's range of outcomes at this point? It's not 20 fantasy points. It's not in Jonnu Smith's. It's not in Hunter Henry's. You're starting Taysom Hill over those guys. It's not in Luke Musgrave's range of outcomes. You're starting Taysom Hill over them as long as Juwan Johnson is out. Because Juwan Johnson, we know, is the power tight end, right? He's certainly going to be he's talented. We've seen the touchdowns. We know what kind of athlete Juwan Johnson is, but as long as Johnson is out, Taysom Hill is a must-start tight end. A must-start. Given the opportunities that he's used in. I mean, we've seen 83 pass snaps over the last 2 games for Taysom Hill. We didn't see 83 pass snaps in the other games combined in weeks 1 through 5. Taysom Hill is the ad as long as Juwan Johnson is out. Play him. Play him if Johnson is out. It's clear. Make it happen. All right. Prince Kuba. Would you trade Jamar Chase and Ramondre for Pacheco, Josh Jacobs, and Zay Flowers? I would probably not do that. I would keep the Jamar Chase side. That's how I would attack it. Prince Kuba. Shout out to you. All right. So let's get just a couple more in. I've got 4 more targets for you tonight. This time, it's a wide receiver. Kendrick Bourne. I don't know if y'all noticed, but there's a New England wide receiver who's not been playing, and that's been Juju Smith-Schuster. And Kendrick Bourne has played really well over the last couple weeks, but even during the season, 7 weeks, 51 targets. I mean, that's over 7 targets per game. Over the last 2 games, he's had 10 and 7 targets. He's had other games of 11, 9, 5, 6 targets. Averaging over 50 receiving yards per game, over 7 targets per game. If you need a pulse at tight end, Kendrick Bourne is like a wide receiver 3. Pretty comfortable wide receiver 3. He's not a super athlete. He's not going to have these massive spike weeks. But at wide receiver 31 on the year, he's a respectable flex. I mean, looking at the game log, he did have 2 top 10 wide receiver weeks so far this year. So that is within his range of outcomes, having some good games. And in fact, week 1 against Darius Slay, he finishes the wide receiver 5. So looking at some other metrics for Kendrick Bourne, he's a wide receiver 16 in deep targets. You have to like the average target depth. Yards after catch, he's 19th, 18th in receptions, 4th in unrealized air yards. Mac Jones gets any better. We're looking at a bigger season for Kendrick Bourne moving forward. He's 40th in target separation, 22nd in dominator rating, 26th in total route wins. He's winning down the field, even if Mac Jones can't hit him. But when Mac Jones hits him, we can see big games. He went 6 for 63 and a touchdown just this past week against Buffalo. Now, granted, Buffalo has been really struggling on defense, especially with Matt Milano being out and other pieces like Tre'Davious White being out and Ed Oliver being out, right? This Buffalo defense is, feeling the loss of some veteran presence, but Kendrick Bourne is a flex moving forward. That's how you should treat him. And we've seen the spike weeks to be top 10, top 12, top 5 even. So we like Kendrick Bourne moving forward. He's 75% available in your leagues. All right, I'll give you guys another wide receiver. Let's go. Let's get it. Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt is 96% available. But here's the thing is Jalen Hyatt has been quietly ramping up over the last, since weeks 2 and 3, 31, 27, 36, and 25 pass snaps. He's had 4 and 5 targets each of the last 2 games. Remember, this was a 3rd round pick, a deep threat out of Tennessee. And I know that you all are worried about, is Jalen Hyatt, playing well? Well, his yards per route run in week 7, 3.13, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And his PFF receiving grade at 64, isn't great, but over the last 2 weeks, 69 and 73. So he's played well when he's been given more opportunities and targeted more. You have to understand targets are earned. And so it's clear that he's out of this 0-1-2 nebulous ether target share and has now moved into 4 and 5 targets with Tyrod Taylor. You have to remember Tyrod Taylor was the one to get Sammy Watkins in Buffalo up to where he was. When Tyrod Taylor moved away, that was problematic. So, Daniel Jones, as long as he's out, Jalen Hyatt is very interesting. And in addition, we've seen Hyatt take those next steps. So I'm excited to be picking up Jalen Hyatt as a stash. We are not looking to be starting Jalen Hyatt. That's not what I'm saying. Even though he was 2 for 75 this past week against Washington, the secondary was getting torched by Darren Waller, but that also opened up a couple deep plays to Jalen Wyatt. Continue to, in your deeper leagues, make sure Jalen Wyatt is available to you because this is the type of player that can start spiking in the second half of the season. He's got the big play potential. We know that from his time in Tennessee. 4.4 speed, 6 foot, 185. Certainly a very fast player, but not, the speed score that is impressive, but his burst at 97th percentile is great and an 81st percentile catch radius. Jalen Hyatt, a player that is earning more of a role in this offense. And also, if Tyrod Taylor is there, we need to have a little bit more confidence. Maybe there's some quarterback controversy that's brewing a little bit, but Jalen Hyatt, pick him up. He's a target for us. We want some Jalen Hyatt. I'm going to throw a quarterback your way because he might be available in your fantasy lineups. We saw Kyler Murray was activated, or the window was opened. He was not activated from the PUP, but his window was open to begin practicing. So there's less than 21 days now for Kyler Murray to be available to you, and you need to be picking him up now. We've seen Kyler Murray be like the quarterback 1 overall in weeks. And I know what you're thinking, Bradley, like, can he still produce even without the rushing? And my answer is yes. Like, we look back at some of the games where he finished as the quarterback 3 overall back last year in week 8, only 36 rushing yards. Okay. He finished as the quarterback 7 last year in a week with only 26 rushing yards. He finished as the quarterback 7 with 28 rushing yards. He finished as the quarterback 9 with 29 rushing yards. So we can see that Kyler Murray can hit that low quarterback 1 pretty consistently without having the rushing yards because we're concerned about the ACL, right? We know that he's coming back less than a year from the tear of the ACL. But this is a player that you want on your fantasy lineup, especially because we don't know what's going to happen with other quarterbacks, right? There might be injuries. Maybe Deshaun Watson has complications with his shoulder. Maybe there's another Achilles injury that happens. Maybe whatever. You might need a quarterback 1. And Kyler Murray has the pedigree, the athleticism. He's worked his tail off to get back to where he is. And the Arizona Cardinals want to see what they have in Kyler Murray. Because there was a lot of narrative, a lot of chatter about, oh, is Kyler Murray going to come back? Oh, are the Arizona Cardinals have no incentive of bringing him back? Well, reports are that the Arizona Cardinals want to see what they have in Kyler Murray after the ACL. So if the Cardinals want to see what Kyler Murray has, then we want to see what Kyler Murray has. So we want Kyler Murray. Yeah, the passing touchdowns were there. He threw 14 last year. There were multiple instances of 2 touchdown games, and the pass attempts, especially with how bad Arizona's defense is, you can imagine that the Cardinals are going to get into shootouts. This is good news for Hollywood Brown. This is good news for Michael Wilson. Good news for all of the pass catchers involved in Arizona. Kyler Murray is going to be an ad for us with high-end quarterback 2, low-end quarterback 1 type of games in store. He's probably not going to flunk for us if he especially stays in the pocket. So I'm encouraged. We need to be picking up Kyler Murray. There are not other options that are probably on their waiver wire that can access consistently high-end quarterback 2, low-end quarterback 1 numbers rest of the way. So pick up your Kyler Murray. That is it's week number 8, and it's time to pick up Kyler Murray. He's probably available to you. Pick him up. Now is the time. Yeah. This is it, especially if you need some bye week relief. Kyler Murray is a bye week fill-in type of streaming quarterback, worst case scenario. So you need to be picking up Kyler Murray right now so your league mates don't. Oh, and one more thing to add about Kyler Murray. Like, we are assuming that he is not going to be running very much. Like, that's just the general assumption. But what if we're wrong? What if we are wrong about Kyler Murray and his rushing? What if he does come back and he is rushing 40 yards, 50 yards a game? I mean, we've seen Kyler Murray even back in 2021, finish as the quarterback 6 with 74 rushing yards, quarterback 1 with 59 rushing yards. He's a goal line option. And if he comes back before James Conner comes back, you have to think you're going to see some tush push. Right? You're going to see some Kyler Murray used around the goal line. The Cardinals want to see him in action. So that's how I would approach Kyler Murray. Treat him like a must-add low-end quarterback 1, high-end quarterback 2, and fill him in as a spot start. I'm assuming that you have better quarterbacks on your roster, but you don't want your neighbor, you don't want your league mate to also be getting Kyler Murray before you do. This is your pickup. Our assumption is that he's going to be a quarterback 2, but what if he is recovered? What if our assumption is wrong? That is still within his range of outcomes to be delivering quarterback 1 performances. Heck, the week 1 and 2 of 2021, he rushed for a combined 51 yards and was the quarterback 1 each of those weeks. So we do not need a lot of rushing from Kyler. We do need rushing touchdowns, but we don't need a lot of rushing yardage for Kyler Murray to pay off whatever waiver bid you're going to use on him at this point. So Kyler Murray, add him in your fantasy rosters. It's Steph Honey. Shout out to you. Started Hyatt yesterday and won. Let's go 2 for 75. I cut Tazi Spears for CJ Stroud just now. I only had Justin Herbert, so I think it was necessary. 10 team league PPR. Oh, Mr. Grapefruit. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. I'd prefer Tazi Spears. I think you just wait out Justin Herbert. I don't know what's necessarily wrong with him, but missing Mike Williams might be the piece. It's also these downfield speedsters. Maybe they need to get Darius Davis a little bit more involved, because Darius Davis was speed, boom guy, spread the field. That's what's the problem with the LA Chargers. They got so many slow players, slow wide receivers that they just can't separate. And then you're left with Herbert like dinking and dunking his way to fantasy points. So, yeah, I would still kept Tazi Spears. I get it though that you're a little worried about Herbert. I still have confidence in Herbert. Okay. Thoughts on the legend Jake Bobo? Yeah. I mean, he's playing well, and Pete Carroll will always play players who are playing well. I mean, you can't fault Jake Bobo for playing ahead of Jackson Smith and Jigba. Jake Bobo. This is wild stuff. Let me pull up Jake Bobo's receiving stats here. Yeah, 4 for 61 and a touchdown. Did you guys see that touchdown? It was a miraculous touchdown. It was amazing. That's wild. And he played a season high 24 pass snaps, 85 receiving grade. Bobo has a 78.7 receiving grade on the season. Like, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. Maybe the Seahawks found 2 wide receivers in this class. Bobo, an undrafted free agent out of UCLA, 6'4", 206. This is a player that, we didn't think was going to be making an impact, but look, he's now played 15 and 24 pass snaps over the last couple of weeks. Jackson Smith and Jigba also played very well. We know who he is as a prospect, certainly worthy of first round pedigree, but heads off to Bobo for playing his heart out here over the last couple of weeks against Cincinnati and against Arizona. Okay, I think something is wrong with Spears because people dropped him and they can rescoop him. Hopefully, that's the risk you're willing to take here, Mr. Grapefruit. Best of luck with that. I'm going to throw one more player your way. We need to have a little bit more confidence in Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson, 4.4 speed, 4.44 40 out of Kentucky, right? He's been on my list for some time now. I know he let you down in week 7, but that was more matchup based, right? Darren Waller was just primed to torch the Washington Commanders. Wan'Dale Robinson due for a bounce back. I'm confident. I mean, looking at his previous game logs, 5, 6, 6, and 8 targets. His yards per out run sure isn't great at 1.37, but Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is due for a bounce back. He had been the best receiver on the Giants prior to this game. And I think that this is just a blip on the radar. I'm not overreacting. He needs to be a flex consideration for you moving forward. So get some Wan'Dale Robinson on your team. He's probably available to you. He's a flex moving forward. And I like Wan'Dale Robinson as a bye week fill-in, as a PPR flex. That's how you can treat him. You got people with pulses. Wan'Dale Robinson has a pulse. So I'm not too worried about Wan'Dale Robinson's week 7. I think that's more noise than news. Give me the other 4 weeks with at least 5 targets for Wan'Dale Robinson. All right, y'all, this was a lot of fun. Make sure you guys, if you like the content, if you found this helpful, smash that red subscribe button. Appreciate all of you tuning in. I'll be back later this week to give you some fantasy goodness. Until next time, good luck in the fantasy streets, everybody. Good luck with your waiver bids.
I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still.